Why most network marketers never duplicate, and how to fix it. Hook. Why does your team go quiet the moment you stop doing the work for them? It's not because they're lazy, and it's not because you're not working hard enough. Don Failla, the former IHOP manager who built a 1.4 million person organization, figured out the real reason. Most leaders overtrain their people instead of giving them a tool they can use in 45 seconds. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what that tool is. The duplication trap. Why your team goes quiet. So picture this. You finally signed up 5 or 10 people to join your team, and now it's just crickets. You put together training videos, you sent them the comp plan, and you walked them through every product detail. They've gone completely quiet, and you're sitting there wondering what you did wrong. The numbers don't lie. Research from across the industry shows that 85% of the people you sponsor will never sponsor anyone at all, which means the overwhelming majority of your team will stay exactly where they started. Half of your team will quit within the first year, and within 5 years, 90% of them will be gone. That's not a reflection of your effort. And it's not because people are lazy. It's because the way most leaders train their new people is completely backwards. Simon Chan, who has built teams across multiple companies, found that the biggest killer of duplication is overtraining in the first 24 hours. Leaders get excited about their new person, so they dump 3 hours of videos and product science on them before that person has even sent a single invite. And by the time the training is done, the new person's enthusiasm is dead. There's an old saying in this business that enthusiasm on fire is better than knowledge on ice. A new person who's excited and inviting people is worth 10 times more than a new person who knows every ingredient in the product but hasn't talked to anyone. Your new person is most excited in their first 24 hours. That's when they're ready to act, ready to tell someone, ready to move. But most leaders use that window to schedule a 3-hour training instead of a 3-minute action step. By day 3, the excitement is gone, and the new person has already decided this business is too complicated. The irony is brutal. The harder you work to teach people, the faster they freeze up. They get overwhelmed by all the information you gave them, and they stop before they ever send out their first invite. That's the duplication trap. It feels like you're being a great leader, but you're actually building a wall between your new person and their first action. So here's the real problem. Training harder isn't the answer at all. And the guy who cracked this code did the exact opposite of what most leaders teach their teams to do every single day. The 45-second napkin presentation. What Don Failla figured out. Don Failla started network marketing in 1967 after managing an international house of pancakes. He wasn't a born salesman, and he didn't have some special talent that you're missing. He was a regular guy who grew frustrated because he spent hours explaining the business to every new person who joined. He'd walk through the pay plan and the products until both of them were exhausted. And he realized something that changed everything. The problem wasn't the business. The problem was that he had become the business. Jeff Romualdi, who worked with Failla as a business partner, said that Don personally sponsored only 4 people who were responsible for 95% of his 1.4 million person organization. But here's the wild part. Even with just 4 direct sponsors, Don was still walking every new recruit through the business who came in through those 4 lines, which meant he was still the bottleneck no matter how big the team got. If he wasn't there, the conversation didn't happen. And he knew that if he wanted to build something bigger than himself, he had to get himself out of the middle of every single conversation. So he created the 45-second presentation. It's a simple napkin sketch that explains the entire business in less than a minute. You don't need slides, you don't need an app, and you don't need to be a great speaker. You just draw a few lines on a napkin, and the sketch does the teaching for you. Failla noticed something that destroys most great salespeople. He called it the salesman failure syndrome. Great salespeople could recruit hundreds personally, but their teams never grew because new people couldn't copy what the leader did. The star recruiter was doing all the work, and the team was just watching from the sidelines. Failla's fix was simple. Your job isn't to be the best recruiter in the room. Your job is to teach people to teach people to teach people. If your new person can explain the business to someone else using the napkin, then that person can teach the next person, and the chain keeps going without you ever picking up the phone. But the real foundation problem goes even deeper. Another drawing he used is called digging down to bedrock. He compared building a network marketing business to building a skyscraper downtown. You don't start with the penthouse. You start with the foundation, and you dig deep before you build wide. That means you help your new person find their first person, then you help that person find their person, and you keep working in depth until the structure is solid. The money comes in slowly while you're building the foundation, but once the foundation is solid, the rest of the building goes up fast. The modern version of Failla's napkin is even simpler than it was in 1967. Today you have videos, websites, and short presentations that do the exact same thing the napkin did. The tool does the talking, and you don't have to sell or explain or convince anyone of anything. A busy mom can pull up a 45-second video on her phone while she's waiting in the car line at school. She doesn't need to memorize a script, and she doesn't need to become an expert before she helps someone else get started. But knowing the napkin exists is one thing. The real test is whether your new person actually uses it in their first 24 hours without you holding their hand every step of the way. How to make it work on your team. Stop teaching, start tooling. Here's where most people still mess up the handoff. They learn about the napkin, they get excited, and then they turn around and explain the napkin for an hour. That defeats the entire purpose. The whole point is that the tool does the work so you don't have to. The 24-hour rule is simple. When someone joins your team, you have 1 day to get them into action before their excitement starts to fade. You don't send them a training library, and you don't schedule a 3-hour onboarding call. You hand them the napkin or the simple 45-second sketch, and you ask them to show it to just one person before the sun goes down, because one person in 24 hours is the only goal. Failla broke the whole business down to 4 things a new person actually needs to do. They need to join, use the product, find their first person, and help that first person do those same 3 things. That's the entire model. There's no 5th step, and there's no advanced certification they need to earn first. Simon Chan said that any lack of clarity or feeling of overwhelm will make people stop entirely. So your job as a leader isn't to teach more. Your job is to remove every single thing that could confuse a new person. If the process has 7 steps, cut it to 3. If the presentation takes 20 minutes, cut it to 45 seconds. If they need to study before they act, change the order and let them act first. And this brings us to where you spend your time. Napkin presentation number 5 is called ships at sea. There are empty ships who won't do anything, silver ships who might do something if the timing is right, and gold ships who are coachable, hungry, and ready to move. Most of your team aren't gold ships, and that's completely normal. Your job is to find the few who are ready and spend most of your time helping them go 3 levels deep in the organization, so the foundation actually holds. Building depth from the bottom up is the final piece of the puzzle. When you sponsor someone, your next move isn't to go find another person. Your next move is to help them find their person. You're building a foundation, not a fan club. The deeper you go, the more stable your business becomes, and the more people above that depth get motivated because they suddenly have something real to lose if they quit. There's a rule in this business that says you should keep it so simple an 8-year-old can do it. Any fool can complicate this business, but it takes a genius to keep it simple. If your new person can't teach the system to someone else within their first week, your system is too complicated and needs to be cut in half. For busy parents and teachers who are already overwhelmed, this is actually the best news possible. You don't need to become a full-time trainer, and you don't need to hold weekly meetings that nobody attends. You just need to hand people a simple tool, point them to the next step, and go spend time with your kids. What if this actually worked? The math of multiplication. Once this clicks, the math stops being scary and starts being inevitable. Failla's very first napkin drawing is just simple math. 2 people find 2 people, and now you have 4. Those 4 find 2 each, and now you have 8. It's not about you personally recruiting hundreds. It's about a lot of people doing a little bit consistently without anyone burning out. Napkin number 10 is called the Pentagon of Growth, and it shows why depth matters more than width. By the time you get to level 4 or level 5 in your organization, the number of people there can be bigger than your first 3 levels combined, which means your real volume is hiding in the basement, not the rooftop. That's the power of exponential growth. But it only works if the system is simple enough that every single person can actually teach it without calling you for help. Without the napkin, you don't have duplication. You just have a pile of dead leads and a folder full of training videos that nobody watched. With the napkin, you have a chain reaction. One person teaches the next teaches the next, and the whole thing starts running while you're at your kid's soccer game or grading papers after school. That's the shift. You stop being the center of every conversation, and you start being the person who hands out the tool that does the talking for you. The system runs, the team grows, and you get your time back. And when you get your time back, you can finally start to own your life. Conclusion. Duplication isn't about being a better teacher. It's about being a better tool giver. When you hand your team a 45-second napkin sketch they can use, you stop being the bottleneck. Your homework is simple. Sketch 1 napkin drawing today and time yourself. If it takes more than 60 seconds, it needs to be simpler. Make sure a busy mom can teach it before dinner. If you want the full set of napkin presentations, grab the Biohack Your Life workbook. It maps out all 10 drawings, so you can pick the one that fits your team first. You can keep explaining the business yourself, or you can hand them the napkin and let the tool do the work.